I'm going to call the Education Committee meeting together so we can all gather around. This is the Education Committee meeting of Monday, September 9th, and we're going to, adapt the evening so that our presenters. So we're going to go to our action item, which is a presentation from the Duluth Head Start transportation waiver that needs to be acted on.
Alrighty, I will. My name is Sherry Williams. I'm the new preschool director. I've got a colleague with me who is our enrollment coordinator, just in case I need a little support. I wanted to talk just about transportation and preschool students in general. Transportation hasn't always been provided to preschool students. Most of us understand the value of early learning, but access to programming for many students depends on transportation. Improving access to preschool ensures that our earliest learners have experiences designed to enhance school readiness and begin the habit of good school attendance. Voluntary pre-K funding has been the catalyst for increasing access to pre-K classes by providing funding for transportation. So, since our pre-K programming blends 3 different funding streams, Head Start students are vicariously provided with transportation through VPK funding. Head Start, as you know, serves families who meet the federal poverty guidelines, which is our most vulnerable and mobile population. And so the waiver that we are asking you to approve is, it actually has been approved by you once before, but it was embedded in the Head Start grant that you approved in May. However, Head Start is asking us to pull the waiver out of that document and approve it individually and separately. So, the waiver is asking you to, Head Start typically requires 4-year-old children to have restraints and monitors on the bus, and so we're asking you to allow, to waive the regulations for that. We know that Head Start kids riding the bus increases attendance to our program. So we're asking you to, our policy council also has supported this waiver, that 4-year-old children riding the bus to and from school would sit in the first few rows behind the driver, that an adult would meet the Head Start children riding the bus home from school, that all 4-year-olds will participate in a bus safety presentation on the first day of school, and that it's voluntary, so parents who aren't comfortable putting their 4-year-old on a school bus don't have to. So essentially those are the points of the waiver. So I'm just asking you to approve that. I do need to have something written that kind of indicates that approval has happened by the school board.
Member Oswald?
Do you know approximately the number of kids that will ride the bus from your program without the monitors or restraints?
The maximum number is, the maximum number would be 310. That's not going to be in total because we also enroll 3-year-olds. So it's still kind of a moving moot issue as we wait to see what, but not all busing is approved because we also extend busing through the Lowell and Myers reciprocity, but a couple hundred kids rode the bus last year.
That's a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Are bus drivers trained to handle 4-year-olds and are able to keep their eye on them and keep them safe, as proven by last year? I mean, we can't predict the future.
It's amazing. It works.
And there aren't any complaints from the bus drivers at all?
We haven't really,
we haven't received any of those complaints regarding the age of the kids. We have, years ago, had transportation for Head Start. In addition to the Head Start students, it's also the voluntary pre-K, and it is a requirement for voluntary pre-K to provide transportation.
Thank you. I was just making sure that there's nobody in this process that isn't on board. So I think it's a great idea. to be able to get kids to school in whatever means necessary.
Member Kirby.
Thank you. I think we went over this pretty much in depth with Pam Reese last year, and agreed that it was a good thing, and I'd support doing it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Member
I was just going to add that we have gone over this in the past with Pam, and I know from serving on the Head Start governing board that there was a lot of discussion with Parent Advisory Council, Governance Council, and they were just sharp as a whistle in terms of asking lots of safety questions and many other questions as this was developed. So I
think having the adult there is the big key process of making sure that a sibling can't put the kiddo on the bus or receive the child from the bus. It has to be an adult, and so that covers a lot of area of concern.
And until we can get extended care, as would be amazing, kids can bus to daycare facilities and be met by an adult there, and that's a wonderful option as well. So I am enthusiastically in favor of this.
Great. I'm not sure how to conclude. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm not sure, I've got a letter prepared for someone to sign. Is this, I'm not sure the protocol.
I was just going to review. So we would vote next week on all of our education items, and then we would do the letter, and we can do the letter right the next day. Because I think the chair usually signs that. But
yes.
So we have a regular voting board member meeting next Tuesday. So you would have the letter on Wednesday.
Okay.
If that works with your timeline, right?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Is it the same letter that's on page 5 of ours? It's probably not. If you give that to me, then I'll have it for next week.
Okay.
Thank you very much for waiting. I feel terrible, and we're, maybe going to think about that, how we schedule our meetings, and maybe put it at the end, we welcome. Thank you.
Great.
Welcome you to your new position as well. So thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. So we're going to go back to the beginning, and the first item is informational presentation of our assistant superintendent. And just for housekeeping too, I'm assuming that our curriculum and instructional report, actually we're just going to have to look at what she shares with us, because I know she had a meeting tonight at 5:45, and so I would think she's not with us. So she's outlined a pretty good monthly report, unless somebody else is going to step in and do it for her.
No, I was just going to make a comment that Dr. Lake also shared her regrets that she had a prior commitment that she had to go to.
I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Jeff Horton.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. We're starting off today with some site celebrations, and for our site celebration this month, really, I'm just celebrating everybody. We're all back to school. It's exciting. The focus is back where it needs to be, which is on instruction and kids. And so it was really exciting to go out and be in some of the schools. I had an opportunity to see upperclassmen welcoming the new students to school. That was wonderful to see. I was really impressed at just the high levels of engagement those first couple days. Students were just excited to be back, and the staff were excited to have them. There's just positivity buzzing from all of our schools and our classrooms, which was really exciting to see. I got a chance to get into the lunchroom and help out with lunch for a little bit. And, that was fun. I actually love lunchroom duty. That was actually one of my favorite things as a teacher, because it's just an opportunity to interact with students in a less formal setting. And I really enjoyed that. So, and the students, they came in, they did their thing. I can gladly say 100% of the students in Lowell Elementary at the lunch that I supported used the sanitizer. And so I thought that was pretty good for day 2 at school. So that was pretty awesome. So we all had clean hands. I saw lots of principals out front of the schools and walking around the buildings, greeting families, working with staff. I know our transportation team was working really hard to make sure that we got our kids to school safely. Our clerical staff were wonderful. They are constantly buzzed with all sorts of new enrollments, information, and they're balancing a lot of different things. And they were supporting families and getting the things done they needed to, working hard. So that was wonderful to see. I had a chance to hang out with our new teachers at our new teacher orientation, and that was really exciting as well. We talked a little bit about ALICE strategies, and we had a little fun with that. So if you see a new teacher, you can ask them about that event. That was kind of fun. So moving on to highlights. So what are some things that are going on right now? For Safe and Welcoming Schools, one of our primary strategies, I wanted to update you on our COPS grant. We had mentioned last year that we went out and received a federal grant, which was pretty exciting. And we ran into some, the city is the host for that, and we ran into some budgeting pieces with that in terms of the process, and so we had to work through that with the city. Things are looking really good, actually, and we're excited that the bids are actually coming better than we'd anticipated, so that's really exciting. So I'm working with Mr. Spooner and facilities on that and for a timeline to continue to secure our front entrances. So that was really great. And I had a chance to meet with some staff over the last week about that and to discuss, the impacts of that and have some upcoming meetings to further that work. In addition, under Safe and Welcoming, this actually leads into the transportation question that came up earlier. Mr. Lake and Ms. Stokes went out and provided some training at Voyager for some of the drivers. And so in terms of helping them work with students who might present some challenging behaviors on the bus and how they can use some strategies for themselves and for the students. So that was really exciting. We're continuing to have conversations on how we can support safe bus rides to school and from school at the end of the day. So that was really exciting to do. Another one of our primary strategies, MTSS leadership. We have a meeting coming up September 25th. We have 24 different team members that will be coming together from different areas, elementary and middle high school principals that are represented in the different cohort model that we've used up to this point, special education. We have some of our specialists that will be in that meeting. I will be in that meeting, and that will be an opportunity for us to talk about MTSS and the direction we want to go. At our last principals meeting, I asked our principals what they were looking for from direction from the MTSS team, and they said we want MTSS team to provide some direction for us to consider. So we'll be doing that work on September 25th, and we'll be excited to engage them in that process. Another new thing that we're doing this year is School Within a School. That has been changed at our secondary sites. Principal Norman has been working with our high school sites to update our School Within a School programming, and they are going to be using Chromebooks in those classes. So he's providing one-to-one devices in those settings, and those are small settings. Our teams have gone through identifying the students, and we're pretty excited to see the impact that can have on student achievement. And they're going to be doing some online learning platform work like they were doing downstairs through AEO. So this will be a new way for us to work with students who are having different needs. In order to identify the courses, we went through a data-driven process, and we took a look at the data, where the sections were needed, what we did in the past, and then we moved forward with those sections. And so both Denfeld and East, I was able to check in with East. I have not seen Denfeld's yet, but so far things are going okay. Principal Norman is providing some professional development as well for teachers around the use of those devices and some of the different programming pieces. So excited to see the results that'll be, but that is something different this year that we did not do in the past.
I'm sure there's some
Yeah,
questions
it's
there.
new to me. I'm wondering how many students are involved and where the funding came from for these Chromebooks.
Yes, so good questions. And Bill, I'm going to maybe have you jump in a little bit with me on this one to take parts of it. I don't have the sections in front of me. I would need to pull them up. We needed to re-examine how we were doing our School Within a School program. We'd done some work with the Minnesota Department of Education to get some guidance on that, and as a result of that, I can't speak to the different funding sources. I wish Kathy was here, and maybe you can, as to how those funds were created and how we were able to put those into place at our building sites.
This is specific funding that's available through ALC
Yeah.
to create a school within a school to help students that are behind in credits.
Yeah.
So is this like the credit recovery things that Principal Norman was bringing to us? As an, like, remember last spring we had a presentation where we were changing attendance and check-in, not the same
That was
thing.
the hybrid schedule that
Yep.
they're using at the ALC.
Okay.
And that's for their seat-based program. Okay. This is going to provide, this is more of an early intervention, so this is a way for, in order to have an ALC, you have to have programs out at the sites, and that's how that funding is determined, and it can only be used specifically for some of those purposes, and that's how this funding was used. And so Principal Norman is very much about how can we support our students before they come to us, and so that's a way through our MTSS process that we're doing that.
Superintendent, do you feel like you have to get in there before?
I do.
Okay.
I think we're talking about two different things here.
I know we are now. I didn't mean to muddy the waters. I understand the separation now, but I was just wondering, and he clarified it for me unless it muddied it for somebody else. Member Oswald.
So it's my understanding that with the one-to-one devices, they're doing online courses?
No, they are not completely online courses, but they have access to some of the resources. So in some of the benefits that our students in AEO see with the one-to-one technology, getting access to different resources, the potential for differentiation by having a tool like that will allow for some different things to happen in that setting. So it's a small class setting of about 20 students. The students aren't taking the devices home, to my knowledge. They're on Chromebooks that are on a cart, and then they can use those when they're in class. And then the high school principals went through a process with their teams to determine what students would be in those classes and who would have the highest need. We took a look at, when I went to Denfeld over the summer, we took a look at the past fail rates in classes and how many students were in need of different courses, and we used those as part of our indicators to say, here's the students that need additional support, would benefit from this unique learning environment.
Or was mental health a criteria for any sorting out kids in and out of this program?
The first thing that students have to do is have a CLP in this, and so it's they have to meet the criteria that's set by the state, and so that's kind of the first indicator. A student that has mental health would definitely be a candidate for something like this if that's determined that based on their specific needs. Mental health is a broad topic, so if they specifically have a need for it, absolutely that could be a consideration to be in this course.
The only reason I guess I shouldn't have led that question that way, just because of my own experiences this summer with my own daughter. We've learned that online courses and working with technology is not recommended for students that are experiencing anxiety and depression. So I just want to make sure that if kids are failing in that environment too, that they're not written off. It just might be because of their mental health in those areas.
Yeah, I think that's it's important why you get a team of people working on that placement and looking at multiple data points in order to make that determination that it's not a one size, this will work for everybody. It's a unique learning environment that will benefit some and maybe not. And those are some conversations we had as if you're going to have an opportunity for someone who isn't going to maybe be there but has an opportunity to work through an online platform to get caught up because of their circumstances, but has kind of that self-motivated student, they might see more success with that than somebody who wouldn't have success with that. Maybe somebody who does have anxiety who would maybe have a different experience with that type of learning.
Member Sandsted?
So you mentioned smaller classes of 20 or so. Is that 20 kids per building, or are there multiple sections of this at each building?
Multiple sections. And
so how many sections are there at each building?
Let me go back and I'd have to take a look.
If I can check, when he looks for that, and maybe Superintendent Gronseth knows better, this is a little bit in my experience. We've called it different things when I've been at school, and I do want to applaud our leadership for the creative ways we find to find kids, to give kids success. So this is predominantly, from talking with my colleagues, this is for 9th and 10th graders that are just not performing well. And so in the past at Denfeld, it was called SOAR Academy, and it was a school within a school, and sometimes the students that need it are still being sought. So I did talk to colleagues. They do have students in their classes. They said somewhere around 18. And I think there's like 2 sections. There's a section of 9th grade. There's a section of 10th grade in all subject matters, or not all, but where they're needed, kind of flexible. But again, the piece that I think is really good stuff is that ALC has the ability to fund things that sometimes our general education monies don't. I taught for many years a class called Focus English. The reason it was called Focus is then my hour of teaching was then paid by another pot of money that then opened up another ability for money to be used somewhere else. So, and the curriculum, so the books that I got for teaching that 1 hour was from another pot of money and not our curriculum money. So I just think that it's really a good way to try to intervene and put kids on success, but it's hard kids. You know, the teachers have to be really, I always agree with every Student Succeed Act where they said the best teacher should be teaching our lowest and troubling kids, and that doesn't always happen, but it's a good place.
The focus was really on grade 9 and grade 10 core classes, and so that's where the conversation started. So sections included our intermediate algebra, geometry, physical science, biology, English 9, English 10, civics in a global society, American history are the big courses that are covered. We were able to give Dunfeld some additional courses because there was a higher need based on our data, so they were able to get some additional sections.
And you started out by saying that the laptops, the students are matched with the Chromebook. So are these students who are in all day long in the school within a school? And do we call it anything different than that?
Yeah, great question. So sometimes when we think school within a school, we think of like all day long, you operate literally with the school within a school, and that is a model out there. These students are not. In fact, we had intentional conversations about trying to keep students from trying to schedule, so if you end up in one class, you have the same students all day long, you kind of follow each other, and I've worked in school within a school well, so Member Lofeld, I don't know if you experience that, but you get to the 5th hour and they've had 5 classes, and sometimes that's just not really something that's good for kids, so we had some conversations about that. But it's not just a school within a school in the sense that there's like 4 teachers and you rotate amongst those 4 teachers. They would be out in other classes as well. It's really need-based, so if you need math, you can get math, but if you're, honors English, you could still be in honors English.
And so does the Chromebook stays in the classroom, that in the class within a classroom? It doesn't go, student doesn't carry it from class to class all day long?
Correct.
Okay. My last question is, how are you going to report back on the impact of this at the end of the school year?
That's a great question. I'm really curious to see what the results are as well because this is new. So we're going to want to take a look at how students have performed post, how they performed during the class. I think it's going to take a couple of years really for us to really know the impact as we watch a couple of groups of students go through, but I think monitoring that data and making adjustments as we move into the spring will be something that we want to do. So if the board does want to have an official report out on that, I'd be very happy to take a look at that data and show what the impact of our results were. There's a few ways that I think that we could do that.
I won't be here to ask for that, but I encourage everybody else to.
Okay. I would like to add right now that there was a time just over a year ago where Superintendent Gronseth approached me off to the side and he whispered to me, "Jeff, can you go move the buckets upstairs?" And I laughed because I thought he was joking. And no, he was dead serious. And so I walked up there, and all of you were laughing at me as I crossed there. So I just heard some noise, and I think that was somebody else moving a bucket. So I appreciate that I didn't have to do that. And so thank you to whoever did that. I really appreciate you. Jason, was it?
Principal Clive.
I want to say thank you to both of you. I appreciate it. I've been there. Thank you.
I like the water garden effect. Rain garden.
Yes, duly noted that a new spot for a bucket was just found.
Oh, that was down here? I thought I was hearing that from up
No,
top.
it was down here.
Oh.
On that note, as long as we're on a side topic, you might notice that we've had to put several buckets in different places. The water has found some new ways in, and so hoping to have that on your agenda soon to talk about that issue. I did want to say that we have more sections at Denfeld than we have at East of the school within a school. I think there's one of each at East, and there's two of each, at least in reading and math at Denfeld.
Yep,
because there was higher needs in those areas.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Yeah, and when you said there's more sections at Denfeld than at East, are you talking about the 9th and the 10th graders? Or okay, I just wanted to confirm that. Of those courses, but they could be all grade levels?
Just 9th and 10th.
Okay. Thank you.
I do want to add, too, is when we think about programming, we want to think about a continuum of services. And so when we talked about that, we also looked at who has co-teaching classes, co-teaching opportunities and other opportunities. So we really looked at that push and pull as to where a student might best get their needs fit. And for some, it's going to be school within a school. Those have a co-taught class opportunity that might be best for that student. So we did talk about that, too. So even though we're talking about school within a school, we took that within the context of a bigger continuum of services. So that is the MTSS piece. Also wanted to highlight new principal orientation. Principal Kazmierczak and Principal Hinsala attended that along with Mr. Johnson, who is the new CTE coordinator, and they had an opportunity to meet all of our district staff. And they came in and did a presentation. Our directors came in, some of our coordinators, our human resources, all had a time over the course of about 2 hours to just kind of give an overview of their department, let them know that they're there to help and be a resource. After that, I was able to spend some time with them. We talked a little bit about our CIT teams. We talked about MTSS, Safe and Welcoming Schools. We talked about the administrative handbook that we started, and we shared that resource with them. A team of principals and I worked together to develop kind of a monthly to-do list for principals and use that as an onboarding tool. So we've shared that. There's more work to be done with that, and we're excited to do more work with it. So hopefully at the end of this year, we'll kind of get where we really want it, but it's a nice onboarding piece to support them in a new experience or in a new position. So excited to meet all the new leaders that we have. 3D coaching, I brought this up a little bit last year. We originally had hoped that we could train all coaches in 3D coaching. And what this really came from was an ask of our athletic directors to look at some character development pieces and how are we developing the character of our student athletes. So I asked them to go out and find some different programs and some different ways to do this. Coming into a building, I would like to be able to ask a coach, I'd like to be able to ask a player, what are you doing for character development? Show me this document, show me this plan. I want to talk to kids and I want to know that they're reading a book or doing something about character development and how that's incorporating its way. It's not just about wins and losses. Those are fun and great and we all want to have those, but there's something bigger. It's the why we play from the Minnesota State High School League. So we can't do all coaches at once. We can't afford to do that, but we are going to be able to do 50 coaches. So we took a look at the student survey data, we took a look at the parent data, and we took a look at coaches who are interested. And we're going to start out with 50 coaches, some at East, some over at Denfeld, and we're going to start with them. And a big focus of that will be character development. So I'm really excited that we're going to be able to start that. And I think that when we work on those, we see direct application during the school day and in our classrooms. And I think that will have a direct impact on student achievement. So I'm really excited about that piece. The last two things is my shout-outs. So this was really fun for me. We had an opportunity to do a second ALICE training and get some additional staff in our district trained. And we brought in, we asked some non-certified staff members last spring to participate in an advanced ALICE training. And we had a lot of people sign up. We then asked those who attended the training if they'd be willing to lead, training for our back to school day that we just had, and they stepped up and said absolutely that we would. And so our non-certified staff led the other non-certified staff through ALICE scenario training. And so Mr. Barsness and I did the group presentation to everybody that was there, and then they took them into breakout sessions at Ordine, and they all went through different scenario training, and they just did an amazing job. Like they were awesome. Our SROs were there too, and so I just wanted to thank Rachel Tappa, Michelle Canavan, William Elliott, Tom Sewell, Melody Hillquist, June Sakic, Rochelle Modine, Bill Stauber, Jason Barsness, who really, he not only did the presentation, but he went and helped out there. Jason McClure, Michaela Carroll, Dale Hunkala, Gail Friday, Kayla Bartkowski, Catherine Colbert, Abby Zielinski, Dylan Carlson, Dave Meyer, Steve Johnson, and Troy Tuvey for just really stepping up and helping us out and really being leaders in their group. They went above and beyond. They came in over the summer, they met with us and did some practice rounds. It was really pretty cool. So a shout out to them. And then lastly, my last shout out goes to our kindergarten teachers. I don't know if you've been in an elementary on the first day of school, but oh my goodness, those people have huge hearts and amazing patience, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I wish we could play him triple for the first week of school because, oh my gosh. But you know what? When I went to some of the elementaries, I saw kids walking in lines already. I walked into a classroom, and they were all sitting in a circle singing a song. I'm just like, it's like they'd been in school for I don't know how long. I wanted to bring them out to show some of our secondary and high school students on how to walk down the hallway and how to do
sit in
it.
a circle.
I was absolutely amazed. So, just shout out to our kindergarten teachers for taking students who've never been in school and making a great experience for them and teaching them the ropes and helping them get to lunch and figuring all those different things out. So that is the Assistant Superintendent report for Monday, September 19th. Questions?
I'll first go to, I think, Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Yeah, a couple of things. I was in an elementary school, and I will say, the shout out to the kindergarten teachers is well deserved. I also, though, wanted to ask you to extend a thank you to the list of people you just recognized from us for stepping up and doing that leadership work that we need to see happening more and more throughout our district. So please shout out to them from us as a board. And then when you talked about the 3D coaching, I did have a conversation with one of the athletic directors about that, and I know they were really excited about that. Again, if you have an opportunity with coaches as well as athletic director or activity directors to shout out their back to school. At East it was called Greyhound Nation event. The auditorium was filled with parents and students and coaches to talk about all those things that make up sportsmanship in the school, and I know they did something similar at Denfeld. At East, they also addressed vaping, and that was a wonderful presentation. So just as a parent of an athlete and a student active, it was a great event, and I knew it took a lot of planning. And again, I know it happened at Denfeld as well. So please share that with the activities directors.
Absolutely.
That event is really important for parents. So.
Superintendent Groundsett.
I just have to give the Head Start and voluntary pre-K teachers a little shout out too, because more and more often kindergarten is their second year in school, and so it was an opportunity for perhaps some of our Head Start and preschool students to serve as role models for the incoming kindergartners and show them how it's done.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Assistant Superintendent Horton, for your report.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we're just going to keep moving really quickly. We're just going to go to the policy. We've got grants, and that's true. And again, nobody has anything to share from Director Curriculum Netland. I mean, she's given us a pretty complete list, so if we have questions, we can email her. But my apologies to her as well for not being able to be within her timeline. So we're just going to go to policy 521, student disability. It's on the second reading. And I just have some reflections from member Trinka, who couldn't be here. So she asked me, if you turn to page 8 on the board book too, it is just, she would like a space just in the before, so if you look at E, look at E, and she would like a space after forms and before claims, like the fourth line down on E in the red. She just wants a space after forms to distinguish between claims. It's just a formatting request.
For where there's a period? Like procedures and forms in S in parentheses period?
And then new paragraph for claims. Just or not a new paragraph, but a...
Just a space there? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
She wonders are we hyperlinking policy 103?
Do you mean a character space or like a line space?
A line space.
Oh, okay. So would that be would that be F, or is that...
Would that be what?
Is that making an F, or is that just...
No, but it's not making it F.
Offsetting it?
It's just offsetting it.
Okay.
Making it easier for people to see the claims of discrimination.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. Got ya.
She also wants to know if policy 103 that we refer to in second line can be hyperlinked, so if they click on it, it brings them to 103.
Can we hyperlink within those? I don't know that question.
I don't know either, and I think we talked about that before. Can we?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, we will hyperlink and we will put a line there. Absolutely. No problem.
And I think her other question, we answered together was that we have to, in page 9, under coordinator, it's the recommendation. It is not even just the recommendation. It's the direction that our Department of Human Rights to have Jeff Horton's name in there, right?
That's correct. Right. Yep, we have to have the person's
name. That's what I thought. And again, per member Trinka, the reason why we are removing the form that's on page 10 is because we're hyperlinking to the 103 form, policy 103. Okay.
There was also some conversation too about, should we add some language to the policy about not going through the process at the Office of Civil Rights, but just encouraging them to do it through our internal process. And they recommended that we do not do that. They said that could show up in litigation later down the road and be something that's not good for the district, so we want to do it. They said the intent is great, wonderful intent, and they understood all that, but they said it might cause something later on, so they recommended not adding that in there. So
I know we've discussed that, and it is, now that I hear it back from you again, it's kind of like, well, they probably want to report outside the district to an agency that they know doesn't have any preconceived bias or knowledge or relationship, or I don't know.
It's possible that they might. We really want to provide some really good customer service and ensure things are doing well, but sometimes people want to go through a different venue, and we have to make sure that we communicate that according to MDE.
Member Loughlin.
I think we also talked in the first reading that in the way our handbook is set up as well, there's a section that really emphasizes kind of going through your school principal and kind of the different processes for concerns that you have as well. And so not that it's right connected to this, but we work to be welcoming in the handbook in some other areas as well, and review process. So
yep, I think that's something we could add into some training components on 504, so that we can just encourage building leaders that, if you're not satisfied with this result, or if we're having an issue, here's a process that we can go through, and we can invite them to enter into that process. So,
any other comments? Thank you again. Thank you. That concludes the policy. And again, we have a resolution that's just part of our normal grant acceptance from the Northland Foundation, and our future items is just continuing our policy updates, and I really appreciate speaking with you, Assistant Superintendent, with, just your goal of laying out policy that at least is in your area of policy, and giving us kind of a timeline or a year out type of, working towards updating our policies. We have a presentation next month on our North Star Accountability System update. Is that from Dr. Tanya Lake?
Yep.
Okay. And again, then somewhat a board request, but just I think a part of our natural process is to get information from our school improvement teams, our plans. Plans.
Absolutely.
Any questions?
I will add that just a little excitement around the grant is most places only get $1,000 for this grant, and we were awarded $5,000, and this goes to support our P3 teams. And so talking about the importance of early childhood and kindergarten readiness and read well by third grade, this supports that work. So it's very kind that they are willing to give us some extra funding based on the size of our districts and the needs and the level of support they have. So thank you very much to Northland for that, and thank you, Jay, for going through the process to get that for us.
That concludes our Education Committee meeting for today. Thank you all for staying and working and